For somebody who didn't know a name and a date, all here is the fastest I signed some papers. A set of papers. I could have signed my life away, but I signed. I didn't read that. I signed. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to share with you my labor experience as a first-time mom. So let's get right into it. It was a Wednesday morning, about 1 a.m. I awoke to some sharp pains. Instantly I knew it was labor. It was like period pain, but it was more intense and more aggressive. But it was bearable. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to wake up anybody that hour, because I was living by my parents that time. Through my pregnancy period for my first child, I stayed by my parents because I had a really bad sickness, morning sickness that lasts very long throughout the pregnancy. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to wake up my parents that hour because they are elderly. I said I'm going to bear it out until or unless it gets very unbearable. So I did make it to day clean on Wednesday morning. And I told them what was happening. And mommy said, you know what? Have something to eat, have an early bath. Because we're not staying home here with you very late. Because you're old, in her words. And this is your first child. So as the day progressed, the pain, it came and it went. But as the day progressed, it got more and more intense. I remember having the feeling like, you know, when your periods and I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes I feel hot, then I feel cold. But for some reason, I had the urge to keep going in front of the fridge. When my body just kept telling me go in front of the fridge. So I remember opening the fridge, which was strange, and going and taking the cold breeze. And getting, even while I'm in front of the fridge, I'm getting the sharp pain. But like my body was telling me stay in front of the fridge. That was just weird, but that was my experience. And as the day progressed, it got sharper and sharper. The pain began coming 5 minutes apart, 4 minutes apart. And all that time, my sister, who's a midwife, my mother was in contact with her, and she said, no, it's her first time, keep her. But mommy insisted. She said, see you, I am not keeping you here too late. So when it was like 3 minutes apart, mommy called my brother, and he came and he took me to the hospital. Now, the hospital is about 45 minutes drive from where we live. And I remember on the road to the hospital, I wanted to pee. I wanted to use the bathroom. I wanted to urinate. And my brother pulled up on the side of the road, and mommy was like, you sure it's urinate? You want to urinate? Because sometimes when the baby is coming, it feel like if you want to go to the toilet. So you sure is that you want to know? I said, yes, mommy. And I really came out and I excused myself on the side of the road, and then we got to the hospital. So when I got to casualty, it was smooth sailing because we had done, I think we had done some semi-registration before, and they gave us a yellow card. So when we came to casualty, they just came with a wheelchair and they carried me to the labor room. All that time I was crying soft tears because the pain was frequent. And of course it was intense. So I remember they took me into the labor room immediately as I got to the labor ward. And the midwife, she checked me out and she said, okay, you're fully effaced. So I said, what does that mean? She said, you're in labor. She said, but you're only 2 centimeters dilated, and you're supposed to be 10 centimeters dilated. She said, but for the amount of pain you're in, and because of how often you're getting the contractions, we're going to keep you in here for a while. So they kept me in the labor room for about 2 to 3 hours. And during that time, the doctors came, they tried to put in an insert IV in my hand, and it was so much trouble. They tried and they failed at numerous attempts. I don't want to lie on them. They took me about 20 times. And it was really not a big thing for me because I had got news. I had just built up a mind, and I told myself, Mika, this too shall pass. Honestly, because from clinic visits and all of that, they always draw blood, and you know, I just had built up the mind. I have to do it and I have to do it. So even though I got so many chokes, it was like, okay, that too will pass. But I remember after trying numerous times and they weren't able to insert the IV line, the doctor tried here. He tied my hand with a rubber band or some rubber thing, and he tried here. And when he got in the line, when he got in the needle, after a while the vein just started to swell. It's the first time I saw something like it. I saw my vein swelling out of my hand, and I was like frightened, and then he just pulled it out quickly, and they held it, and then eventually I think a senior doctor came in and they got the IV in. And eventually they said, you know what, we are sending you back to your bed. We are taking you out of the delivery room and sending you back to your bed. So while I was on my bed, I still getting pain, y'all. Not to mention, the only thing I ate would have been the Wednesday morning, because I couldn't eat anything throughout the day. Well, I don't know, I just didn't feel like eating, so I didn't eat anything. When I came back to my bed after a while, I felt a bit of a rush. And I went to the bathroom. And when I went to the bathroom, I saw this thing come down and go in the bathroom. But I was so well read because it's my first child, so I read a lot of literature surrounding childbirth. So when I looked down, I realized it was the mucus plug, had some blood and whatnot. So I know that it was all well. I didn't even tell the doctor because I read that, you know, it's natural and whatnot. It's a sign of labor. So I didn't even tell the doctor. And I went back to my bed, y'all. And if I slept for 2 minutes, I would get up and groan every time I get the pain. Groan. And I remembered my big sister told me, she said, Mika, I want you to remember this when you are getting pain to make that child. She said, remember to smell the roses and blow the candles. Smell the roses, blow the candle. And guys, that kept me through the night. Somehow that little crazy thing helped with the pain. Smell the roses, blow the candles. And sometime during the night, the nurse came and she said, Miss Storm, there are a lot of women on the ward that made children and they want to sleep and you are disturbing them. And I said, nurse, you think I really want to do that? You think I want to do that? I'm in pain. She said, all right, Miss Storm, we'll try to be a bit more quiet. Try your best because the ladies want to sleep. I said, okay. And you know the irony about it? One was about after 4 minutes to 5, they came and wake me up, which meant that I got a little bit of sleep. And they said, Miss Storm, please get up and follow us to a bed. And then when I went in, a doctor examined me. I think it was a doctor or a nurse, I can't remember, examined me. And then they told me, here what? You need to go and have a bath, and we are going to take you back into the labor room. So I went back to my bed. I said my prayers, whatever it was I had to do, and then I went and took a bath. And sure enough, by 7 o'clock, I was back in the labor room. Guys, I stayed in there a while before they did anything. Then they came and they told me, I think around 8 o'clock, they said, okay, so you went through the night, you came in 2 centimeters dilated, fully effaced, you are in labor, and you have not progressed in labor. I said, okay. She said, because you are still 2 centimeters dilated. So what we are going to do is to induce labor. Now, I had heard before about being induced, and nobody had anything good to say about it. But at that time, I was excited. I would not lie. Because you know, you get in pain whole night, since 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. the day before. And you know, I was just glad that, okay, it's going to be a hot pain. I know they say it's hot, and I would get through it. So they gave me the first injection through the IV. I can't remember what time. But after a while, they came and they said, you know what? It's not working. We need to give you another shot. I said, all right. But guys, the time they said that it's not working, that time a girl in pain. When I say pain, it's not like nothing I have ever felt. It's like something that came out of space and just dropped on your girl body. My back felt like it was doing that. Pulling apart. I was so uncomfortable. And I remembered it had this nurse there. And I kept telling her my back. So I was on my side. I kept telling her my back, and she would put her hand around me and rub my back. And I holding her so and hugging her up and rubbing her back. And she said, oh, you're so sweet. And she said, you see what God said? You see the word of God is true. In pain he would bring forth. And she was so kind, y'all. And then, if I thought I was getting pain, I really started to get pain now. It was a different pain. I cannot describe this second set of pain I started to get. I just can't describe it. But only I started bawling. And I remember my sister telling me, don't care what you do not bawl. You would use up your energy, do not bawl. And the nurse told me, she said, Miss Tommy was going so good all the time. Why you started bawl? He was breathing so good and we were going so good. Why you bawling? No, I said, I can't take it no more. I said, I can't breathe no more. I just can't breathe. I can't breathe. And she said, try. I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. And with that, my pressure started to go up. And she said, this is not good. They bought laughing gas to me because they said the laughing gas would help with the pain. As I inhaled the laughing gas, I started to vomit. She said, no, no, no. And the pressure went up, as I said. And then I started to run a fever. And I started to see a lot more doctors started coming in the room now. Besides, and I remember begging her. Before they came into the room, I remember begging her to stay. She told me her shift was up. And I said, don't go and leave me. And she said, I had to go. And I said, don't go, please. And she stuck around for about a few minutes because she was so nice. But before the rest of them came in, she left. I think the mother for the ward came in and the rest of doctors. And I never saw her again, but we'll talk about her after. And so they came in and the doctors and they were talking among themselves, hardly telling me anything, looking at the thing that they had hooked up to my belly and seeing how constant I was getting the contractions and all of that. And then I think they call her the mother of the ward. She said, Miss Tom, I have to examine you again. So I was like, again, because of course in between they were doing little examinations. But they were using one finger, just one finger or two. But this time, she used her 5 fingers. If she didn't use her 5 fingers, it's 10 she used. I don't know how much she used, but all it wasn't 2. I think she did something that they call was a sweep. My great-great-grandfather felt the pain in his grave. I'm not lying, he felt the pain in his grave. He had to feel it. It was the worst of the worst pain. And around that time now, I started to remember what my sister was telling me. One of my sisters who had, because 3 of us were pregnant around the same time. And I was the last one to have the baby. And I remember she was telling me, Mika, you know, C-section is not that bad. Because I kept saying, I one thing I do ever want to have a C-section. And she said, girl, it's not bad. Because she had a normal delivery and she had a C-section. She had 2 C-sections. She said, it's not bad. I prefer a C-section any day. The amount of pain I got with my first son. She said, a C-section, they put you to sit down, they give you an injection in your back, and they take out the child. She said, and it just be up during the time. But I still didn't want to go through that. She said, you know, it's the healing process is hard. Guys, when your girls started get pain, so I started calling for my mother. And I remember a nurse that was there, she started laughing. She said, I like all this. So, you know, they said, all of us call for their mother when all they're in pain. I started calling for my mother. I cried. And then I said, you know what? You have to have an end game here because these people are not going to kill you here today. Honestly, that is what I said in my mind. And so when they started to talk to me now, looking back, I don't know if it was the pain, I know it's what. But all yeah, I started to say all kind of nonsense. But to me, I knew what I was saying because to me, I planned it in my mind at that point to say, but I really don't know. You know, looking back, I don't know because I was in real pain. And then it does stop and she asked me, she said, what is your name? And I remember saying, but it's mine. Not the nurse, a doctor. They said, what's your name? And I said, but it's mine. She said, what date today is? I said, today is today or tomorrow? Yesterday? Something like that I said. But to me, I knew what I was saying. It was just pain, and I know that I had to do something for that to take this child out of me. Not knowing that mommy was outside quarreling, and it had started them praying. She was quarreling. She wanted to know what happened to her child. Or they're not going to kill my child in there. And she was quarreling. It had started them praying. Now I knew that after. And then they came into me and they said, you know what? Now at that time, that is when I know something is water more than flour, really, because the amount of doctors I saw coming in, because I had other experiences before in life, so I know that something, you know, was alarming to them. And She said, Miss Tom, I think we would need you to sign something giving us permission to perform emergency C-section on you because we would have to carry you to do emergency C-section. For somebody who didn't know her name and date, all here is the fastest I signed some papers. A set of papers. I could have signed my life away, but I signed. I didn't read that. I signed. And they changed up my clothes quickly. Well, apparently they went and told my mother that they were carrying me to do C-section. Which, by the way, Mommy kept telling me all along that they would make me do C-section because I wasn't active. But, yes. And I told her, no, it have a lot of women. But I will leave that for another time. So, guys, yes, I had to go and do C-section. So they took me into, they changed me into, what it is, into the gown that, the surgical gowns. And they wheeled me into theater about after 3 minutes to 4 the afternoon. I went in, and you know the irony of it? The pain began to get bearable at that time. Strange enough, they rolled me into theater. They told me I had to sit down, and they gave me an injection in my back that I still feel up to today. But with Jaden was actually even worse, but we're talking about Omarion today. But it still felt, I was still relieved at that point. And they gave me the injection and asked me who was feeling cold or whatever the case was. And they started to do their story. And between it, I started to doze off because I was just so tired. I understand now why they call this thing labor. And I experienced the both of two worlds. Because I was in labor all that time and then I had to do a C-section. So I was so tired and weak. And in between I would open my eyes, but I just felt like if, you know, and eventually I think I heard a where. They didn't even show me the child. They did that with Jaden. They didn't show me the baby when I had him. I just kind of glimpsed him. And I smelled like, if I remember when they were doing the procedure, I was smelling like if they were roasting manicu for you, those of you who know that burn, or like burning hair. So I don't know if it was laser cut or what they were doing on me. But I saw when they passed the baby, they didn't show me, but I saw that when they passed him and took him to the sink. When that was completed, they did what they had to do with me. They sent back the baby to the ward, so mommy and they got to see the baby before I got him. I actually stayed in there. His delivery time was, I think, 5:03, and I never came out of theater until about minutes to 7. When they wheeled me back in, I saw the child there. They would have changed him and everything. I remember seeing on his hand had a IV line, and they told me that his blood sugar was very low. So they needed, I couldn't feed him at that time, and they would have to see about him, and they will tell me when it's all right to breastfeed him. But it wasn't until about 10 o'clock the night I mustered the strength to pull my child from in the tray that they had him in there, to pull it and to pick him up and to see this child. I think Declan got to come in and see the baby briefly when I came back to the ward, because at that time it wasn't visiting hours or anything, but they allowed him to see the baby briefly. And then he left. The other day, I remember that night, the baby slept no, he didn't sleep all night. But for that night, he didn't say a word. He didn't cry. And so I was so concerned. So I like texting my sister to tell mommy, the baby didn't cry all night. And she sent back to tell me it's okay. So the other morning, they took out the caretaker and they told me that I had to get up and try to walk and whatnot. And then they came and showed me how to breastfeed the baby, make sure he latched and all of this stuff. And guys, you see the next night, Enquiries said, "You want to hear me cry? Hear me cry." And that child bawl. When I couldn't take the bawling no more, you know, you're not supposed to put them on the bed with you to sleep. Well, I took my picnic out of that thing and I put him on my belly. Mommy had given me a big blanket to go with because in there it was be really cold. And I covered the child up with the blanket, just leaving his head out. And that's how the child went and sleep. I had him on me whole night sleeping. And I understand why they normally don't want to do that, because they could kill the child. you know, you turn, he fall off of you. But I don't know, like they didn't notice. Or probably they too was just fed up with the child bawling. So they didn't tell me anything. But I'm saying that they didn't notice. Let me just tell you guys something. I asked for that lady, was an Indian lady who was in the delivery room with me, who was so kind, who rubbed my back and allowed me to rub her back. I asked for the next day. Nobody seemed to know who I was talking about. I asked for her when I came back to remove the stitches. They were asking around and like nobody knew who I was talking about. 2 years later, when I had Jaden, I asked for her and still nobody seemed to know who I was talking about. So I don't know if it was an angel or a nurse. If you work in Sandy Grande Hospital and the maternity ward in 2016, guys, share this video. I want to know. I want to meet this lady again. She was so kind. All I remember, she was an Indian lady. I think she had a bit of fair skin, not too much, and she was about medium height. Medium to tall height. I can't remember much, but I would love to reach this lady again. So this is my first time experience, first time birth story, labor story. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will be doing my second labor story for you all in a follow-up video. So I hope that you were blessed and that you enjoyed it. And God bless you guys. I love you.